right, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
We'll get this rolling, and that way you guys don't have to sit here and be bored with us. But trying to do this so that we're all very relaxed. One of the things that I really like doing with WASAC is we have a round table. And people will talk about their issues, and so it's a lot of fun. Usually we don't have cameras, but that's okay too. All right,
Where's the round table then?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
doesn't look loud.
Well, you have to picture a little campfire right in the center.
Think outside the box.
Right.
Circle back.
Okay, let's go ahead with, you have to turn your volume off on this. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna go with Mark first. Also want to make sure that everybody has their cell phones muted or off, please. Okay, Mark,
Do you have your cell phone muted?
I don't even bring my cell phone in the
Oh,
meetings.
good job. Good job. Way to set it by example.
I just text him and asked him to call you, so we'll see.
Welcome. So first quarterly meeting of electeds and department heads, and so kind of wanted to just touch base with everybody and give you a state of where we're at. I can tell you that at the start of this year, we've been super focused on budget-related items. So that's something that I think is at the forefront of definitely Jen and I's mind, and most likely the Commissioner's office too, because they're really looking at the past few years. We've seen a very different environment than we see coming forward. And so the intent of Jen's presentation is to kind of get you guys on the same page. I think when you look back since 2020 to 2025, government's looked a lot different, right? I mean, we've gotten a lot of supplemental funds that have came into the county. Some of those funds have helped us do projects that we probably wouldn't have been able to do before, but a lot of that money's also came in and helped supplant expenditures that we normally would have incurred. So financially, I think offices and departments have done a great job of, over the last 4 or 5 years, really looking at and being careful about how we spend our money, looking at the revenues that we have coming in and really focusing on that. And predominantly, we're focused on the general fund today. So special revenue funds are in and of themselves kind of private businesses, and we handle them like that. They do get support from the general fund sometimes when necessary, but predominantly they're on their own. So we're really focused on the general fund today. But as we look at this over the last 4 years, I feel like we've done a good job. I feel like Mason County's in a different spot than other governmental entities are. But wanted to kind of get a little dose of reality for you as we look to the future. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Jen, and she can start her kind of, it's a modified presentation. If you see her monthly financial reports that she normally does for the commissioners, she goes over all the different funds. We're really just focused on the general fund today.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. So beginning with the general fund revenues, so far this year through February, we've received $6,094,000, and that's a little bit less than we received last year, $6,162,000, 67,000 less than last year. So pretty comparable, but our revenues are remaining fairly flat is the main message I wanted to portray. Then on the the treasurer's revenue, those are also pretty flat. $3,324,000 is what we've received through the end of February this year, compared to last year $3,328,000. So within $5,000. That's
Jen, can you zoom in on the numbers that are pertinent? Because the rest of that doesn't mean much to me, but I can't see any of that.
sure.
You barely see the TV.
We forgot I can see it better if I take those down.
I think that's right. I forgot the age demographics here.
It's close. I can
My
see.
ears seem to work.
Is that better? Okay. Yeah. 200. I think that's gonna be too much. I'm gonna do 150.
It's readable. I can't see the lines,
So scroll down a little bit.
Okay,
I'm sorry to be so difficult.
No,
that's okay.
So these are the numbers that Jen was talking about on our total, and maybe something.
Yeah, so we have received just in the treasurer's office, and this is where the property taxes and sales taxes are received, which are our two main sources of revenue for the general fund. We've received $3,324,000 through the end of February this year compared to $3,328,000 last year. So very flat. We received a little less property taxes this year, $540,000 compared to $632,000 last year. Our sales tax is up a little bit this year over last year, and our interest earnings are down a little bit this year compared to last year. So that's where the main differences are. Moving on to the expenditures, and I'll zoom in here as well. Because I did 150 before. So is that,
That's good.
okay, good.
Is it good?
Yeah. it was good.
I can see it from here. There's actually numbers there.
So in expenditures in the general fund, we have expended this year through February, $8,767,000 compared to last year, $7,934,000. And so that's where our big differences are, is our expenditures. Our expenditures remain fairly flat throughout the year, meaning January through December, we expend roughly the same amount each year, with the exception of October. We have our risk pool insurance that's due, and that's a big one-time expense throughout the year, except for 2025 will be an exception. We have a $500,000 payment that is due May 1st for risk pool insurance, to bring us to I think it's going to be due in December from now on. So it's a one-time payment due in 2025. So
in 2025, you're going to have two payments
Yes.
as opposed to normal.
yes, and I think that the other one will be due in December, but I'm not positive on when it will be due. But it's going to look a little bit different for 2025 as an increase there. But my main message with the expenditures is, I mean, it's only February and we've expended $832,000 more so far this year than we had last year in the general fund. And that's just with our regular expenditures, and a lot of that's due to the contracts that we have. We've increased our employee contracts. So we have the corrections was a huge one. I think there's 300,000 more, or no, 700,000 more in the 2025 budget than in 24. We have the sheriff's was also pretty large. I think it was like 400,000 more roughly this year compared to last year, somewhere in that range. We have the prosecutor's contract, which was about, I think 300,000 more in 2025 budget than 24. Overall, our salaries and benefits are budgeted 5%, a little over 5% more in 2025 than in 2024. So our expenditures are growing faster than our revenues, and so that's my main message. me skip the special fund. 6-year recap. Our sales tax right now is looking up, so that's good. So through February, we have received 1,656,000. And we have budgeted 9.5 million. Last year, we received 9.858 million. So yeah, this year we're projecting to receive 9.5 million. If we continue on receiving exactly what we did last year, and then adding in what we've received this year, we would receive close to $10 million in our sales tax. But we don't know if that's going to continue to go up with the economy looking the way that it is right now. So we just need to be cautious if we can in our spending, or find ways to increase our revenue.
And so I think those are the important part, and why Jen always focuses on sales tax revenues is because that's a major source of revenue for our general fund, right? So, property taxes and sales taxes are how we fund our government. Property taxes, we haven't, I mean, even if the commissioners would have selected to do a 1% increase, it's about $100,000 a year is all. Where we get growth in property taxes is when we get development. So development in unincorporated Mason County increases the values and allows us to collect more for new construction. So when we're looking to say, how do we increase our revenues to kind of keep pace with this growth in our expenditures, we're looking at it to say, hey, property taxes and sales taxes is where it's at. So
you're saying we need to send a message to Shooty and say, get on it, man.
absolutely, yes, new development is great.
Jen, Mark, I was also note that when you're looking at sales taxes, those figures are 2 months behind. So your February sales tax is your December sales tax. So you're looking at the holiday revenue for the first November and December, in January and February. So you will see a downplay probably in March.
Yeah, and so if you look at that, you can kind of see it in the projections.
Oh,
Some
sorry,
people
I
can
was
see
going
it.
back up to
Just kidding.
So you can kind of see the historical parts here. So 2024 revenue, March, last year we went from 830 down to 674,000.
Nobody else in the room can see that. You're saying you can see that. We can't see that. You're sitting a lot closer than the rest of us. And
Oh,
your
I
eyes
thought
are
you were just
probably-
saying that I'm really young.
How's that? Better?
I do a little bit better. But yes, Lisa is 100% correct, is that it is 2 months behind, so you definitely see ebbs and flows in those numbers, and when Jen looks at them and compares them, she's comparing them to last year's same month.
Right.
So apples to apples.
Okay, there we go.
Mackenzie, can you
Now
turn
we're
off
ready.
the side? The advertisements.
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
That'll expand that.
there, like that.
You might have that option, I don't know.
Actually, the yield is
I can't, I can't see. You got this one?
I'm gonna try, but I'll probably get it cramped.
Side panel.
Standard?
You got rid of that, it'd make it a lot better.
That's there.
It looks the same.
It's the same.
It's a little better though, it's wider.
the sides.
Yeah, you might be able
There's
to,
no,
you might be able to make that full screen.
I think after 5 years of Zoom, we'd have this figured out by now.
That's asking a lot.
No, no, we are government workers, I get it.
Well, and usually when we're presenting this to the commissioners, it's on a Monday briefing when they're in their office, and they have their screen in front of them, and so everybody can look at it and,
When we used to
Kinda
be in
blow it
our
up.
office.
oh, that's right, used
Yeah.
That's way better.
Now it's in person, it's way better.
it is.
So our cash balance through the end of February in the general fund is $24,191,000. And compared to last year, we were at $25,827,000. And the year before that, 25. So our cash has started to decline or go down
Which it needed
over the previous couple of years. We have, as Mark mentioned, received one-time revenues in our prior years that we're not going to continue to receive in 25 and going forward. So again, we need to find ways to increase our revenue or decrease our expenditures so that we can keep a decent cash flow and keep our reserves funded. Is there anything else you want me to go over on this?
And as we go through this, feel free to ask questions or comments.
What is the optimum level for cash reserve? Because I see in 2020, we had 10 million. Where do you like to see that number?
Well, there's
I
a
mean,
policy, right?
Yeah, there's a fund balance policy, reserve policy, and right now it's at 25% for our operating reserves, which is,
25% of the previous year's expenses.
Oh,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Which is what number?
12,230,000 for this year. Of course, that number is going to change every year. Most likely, it's going to increase if our expenditures are increasing. And then we have these other reserves that we've put into place that are nice to have, but I feel that we are lucky to have these reserves. I think, I mean, it's nice to be able to fund them, but probably not as necessary as this 25% operating reserve is a must. I would say that's a huge, that's my goal, is to have that 25% operating reserve.
When you look at our overall budget for 2025, we're budgeted, if we were to collect everything that we expect to collect and spend 100% of what we expect to spend, that $12.3 million would be gone in 2025. So 1 year you blow it out. Realistically, it's not what happens, right? So Jen's monitoring that and looking at that constantly, every month, to see where it goes. But I think the message coming forward is we've got to be careful about how we continue to grow. We've got to look for opportunities to be more efficient with the things that we have. And so I think that focus is going to change a little bit from the last 3 or 4 years when you had CARES and ARPA money coming in, and we were able to fund not only some of our government operations under the revenue loss category for those funds, but we were also able to fund projects with other entities, right? So some of our special revenue funds receive benefits associated with those, some of our enterprise funds, some of the governments and nonprofits within Mason County all benefited from that. So definitely our community benefited from that, right? We were able to pay off property taxes that were past due. We were able to pay off utility bills that hadn't been paid in a long time. We were able to help some of our local businesses out during the COVID time period. So a lot of positives came from that, and the commissioners did a great job of really managing how they spent those one-time funds. So now we are in a position that's different than other governments, right? I mean, it doesn't take long to watch the news and watch the legislature and see what they're going through this year. It's because they took a little different approach than we did. I think government always has ebbs and flows. So there's time periods where the economy's super healthy and you see new development and you see increases in sales tax, and that helps us grow through those leaner times where maybe we don't see our revenues increasing as fast paced as our expenditures are increasing.
Okay, so I brought this screen up, and I think that you can read it. I increased the size. This shows the difference in our budgeted to actual revenue and expenditures, and over the prior 6-year period, so from 2019 through 2024, or 5-year period, we have on average received 6.49% more in our revenue and expended 9.08% less in our expenditures. But as Mark mentioned, a huge part of that is our one-time revenues, and we budget conservatively. And so both of those factors, make up the 6.49% and the 9.08%. I don't think that 2024 is going to be as rosy, again, in either area. So I think that this projected ending fund balance of $22,485,000 is too high, and most likely we're going to end up with an ending fund balance of less than $20 million. If things continue the way that they are in the first couple of months, so in January, February. So again, I mean, we have the contracts that have been settled that increase our expenditures, and we had about $1 million of ARPA revenue that went into 2024 that we will not have in 2025. Our vacancies are down, which is great. I mean, that's what we want. But that all factors into our cash balance dipping lower than the prior 5 years.
And we're in February, right? So I think that y'all could kind of imagine that we're looking at that and saying, okay, well, let's pay attention to
You need to
this.
set your clock ahead, it's March.
Well, this is through
Our data is
Calendar.
February. Yes. Yeah, when March, end of March, oh yeah, I'll be in April talking about March still, so yeah, it's the numbers here that Jen puts in there, I think are factual numbers based on history, right? So they're percentages that we calculate and we can defend very easily. What you don't see in there is the things that she mentioned about the one-time revenues that come in, or the time periods where it's really hard to attract employees to come work in Mason County. And we have all these vacancies, right? I mean, I can think back through the last few years in our corrections department. I mean, we've had a ton of vacancies in corrections. We've had a ton of vacancies in our public defender's office. Couldn't keep attorneys. Prosecutor's office has had difficulty attracting and retaining staff. So over those last 4 years, the reason we've spent 9% less than what we budgeted is because we have vacancies.
Right.
As those vacancies go away, that 9% is not 9% anymore.
And those vacancies needed to go away.
I don't
Most
disagree with
of
you
them.
one bit, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm hopeful that the vacancies, I mean, we can use corrections, because corrections, there's big numbers in corrections, right? I mean, we can, if we don't have enough staff to house the people in our jail, then we're paying a contractor to house those people. And so if we can get fully staffed and we no longer have to contract out, well then there's an offset to that increase in salaries and wages. We no longer have to offset and put people into other institutions. We can house them all within Mason County.
So is there anything else you want me to go over?
No, would be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have, or
Comments?
Are we looking at anything on the revenue side? Or are we going to be talking about using bank capacity? Are we looking at anything like working towards a public safety tax, which we can do, some of the things that we actually can implement?
so those are all topics that we need to really educate the commissioners on what are available for us. And then they get to decide on which things that they're willing to do.
I think we also have to be aware of the things that are possibly coming our way through this legislative session. There's a lot of bills where they're giving us taxing authority to pay for law enforcement, to pay for mental health, housing, things like that. So, but then it's a decision that we have to make. Do we want to pass that expense onto our citizens, and can they afford that, so.
Well, part of that, it seems to be, as we think local, needs to be what kind of service do people expect too? I mean, I know the prosecutor's office was mentioned, but our funded staff level is, at least for attorneys, I think we have one additional now from on the staff side, but otherwise it's the same as it was back in 2007. And we were 2 or 3 attorneys short since about 2018, 2019. We're finally back to where we only have 1 vacancy. And we weren't surviving, and we are barely able to start catching up now. So, I mean, I don't know where that leads, but
Well, and
I know
there
the
are-
public defense side is, I mean, they've the last several years been able to fill their vacancies a hell of a lot faster than we have, but still, it creates a big problem when there becomes a vacancy that we have to fill. You know, and if I can speak intelligently about anything, it's only probably those things that are within my direct sphere, but, I mean, there's an expectation, and I think an appropriate expectation of what we ought to be able to be doing when we haven't been, because we just haven't had the personnel. So as I say, as we talk about vacancies, I mean, hopefully we can start taking a look. You know, if we're talking about my home, you know, when it comes down to revenue versus expenses, and you control what you can control, I mean, we would cut the cable bill way before we would cut the health insurance. I mean, you know, we're gonna need to, I think, be real thoughtful about where we have the ability to make a change, if we have to make changes on the expenditure side that doesn't
Right, and.
cripple the mission.
And counties have certain obligations or mandates, you know, requirements that the state and the federal government tells us that we have to provide. So we have to make sure that we're covering all of those as well. It's fun. Who doesn't like a challenge?
And I think it's reflected in our budget, right? So when we look at the composition of the general fund budget, what I consider to be law and justice, by far the majority of our budget. What happens in when the prosecutor's office is fully staffed and you're able to keep up on all your caseload, there's a trickle-down impact on everybody else, right? So I need more public defenders to manage all those indigent defense cases. I need judges and courtrooms to be completely full. I have an impact on our jail population and that cost. At the head of that is the sheriff's deputy side, right? Where they're out there enforcing the laws within Mason County and ensuring that our public is safe. And so those things all impact. I mean, changes in Jen and I were just talking the other day about changes in laws about how the sheriff's office is able to enforce the laws. Definitely impact the cost of operations for the county, right? So before you guys weren't even able to pursue somebody, well, how long did it take the criminals to figure out that if I just keep going, they can't pursue me?
10 minutes.
And how long is it
That's just
gonna
'cause they
take,
can't
how
read.
long is it gonna take those same individuals to learn, oh, they can pursue me now, so maybe I shouldn't run? I don't think it's gonna be 10 minutes. I think it's gonna be a couple of years. So the impact on that is, there's costs associated with that. So yeah, all those things are things, and I think the intent of this is just to kind of get our minds set, and I think the commissioners have already started this process in saying, as we look forward to the cost of our operations, what are we doing to limit those increases? When we have vacancies, looking at them and saying, what other opportunities do we have here? Do we need to fill this vacancy, or do we need to do something else with it? And so we definitely see that and feel that within the Commissioner's office, and I think that we're going to probably be looking at that for our elected and department heads that are funded out of the general fund in the future. So just kind of think about that as things come up.
All right, well, let's move on down our agenda. If there's no more questions or comments, that's better. All right, Dan.
On that rosy note, I'll get started. If you attended the commissioner meeting yesterday, I won't go through my briefing. We had a briefing yesterday, so I won't rehash it all. But I'm incredibly proud of the educational opportunities we offer Mason County residents through our extension-based programming here. It makes Mason County a great place to live and work, and it gives those citizens a place of belonging here, which is fantastic. Two pieces I didn't touch on yesterday. I had the opportunity last week to be in Washington, D.C., testifying to Congress on broadband expansion. Washington State stands to lose $24 million in already allocated contracts because of the word equity. It's being pulled through the executive order currently, and I have a $1.4 million grant in Grace Harbor that was supposed to start in March 1st, and it's on hold currently. So these funds are really important for broadband expansion. If you've ever been connected to the internet in the outer ranks of Mason County, currently still using copper lines in some areas. So really important work, and advocating, meeting with lawmakers to keep those funds available and moving throughout Mason County for shovel-ready projects that are intentional. We have a broadband action team here in the county that needs to get kind of revitalized, but is looking at collaborating with providers and installers so that we're not duplicating lines or runs. We're making the most of the dollars that are available. The second one is avian flu. Anyone hear of that? Is a real thing. Mason County had a case 2 weeks ago in a backyard duck flock. Our 4-H program is very active with our poultry project in chickens. So we are educating our families and youth on what to do if you have a sick bird. So if you please get the word out as well. Do you guys, anyone have poultry at home? Fantastic. Please limit your wild bird food. And it's really spread by migrating ducks. So availability of water and things like that. Grace Harbor County is where we show at the fair. We are no longer allowing poultry at that fair already. We're already discontinuing that because of biosecurity measures. But also, we were able to purchase 15 stuffed animal birds that our youth can use to learn to demonstrate fitting and showing things like that. So a wonderful opportunity for our youth to understand how avian flu is being spread. And hopefully we keep Mason County off the radar in that area. So, any questions? If you did receive a program report, let me know. Otherwise, let me know if you have any questions.
All right, thanks, Dan. All right, awesome. Loretta.
I like it. Well, I'll start with kind of some high level and then do a little weedy business in some of our divisions. But high level, I know before we were talking about challenges with recruitment with our folks. Happy to say for the most part, we're fully staffed. We still have challenges in our engineering division, but road operations, utilities, and so on, we're up to speed there. I do want to highlight though that with our utility folks, our water and sewer utility operators, most of them, this is the first time in a long time that the majority are operators in training. So we've got a lot of learning and growing and mentoring in that division to continue. Big picture budget-wise, if you take a look at our last year's revenue expenditures, we underexpended by just around 1.67 million, I believe. And if you look at our unfilled labor costs, it was 1.67 million. So if we would have been fully staffed, we would have been revenue expenditure neutral last year. We do have a nice fund balance, much like the general fund. A lot of that has to do with one-time revenue sources that are coming in. And then, as I mentioned, the under expenditure on the labor side, those are the big things that have contributed. In terms of the need, so looking ahead, one of our revenue streams, our big revenue streams, is the motor vehicle fuel tax, and then also timber sales. So on average, Road Fund receives about $370,000 per year in timber sales. As commissioners know, there's been a pause on that. So if that were to hit us, that would be a fairly big deal. Motor vehicle fuel tax is projected to decrease by about 8%. And that's a combo of things, you know, electric vehicles, people transit, a variety. So 8% hit on our fuel tax. Between those two, we're looking at up to $1 million less revenue per year. So if we're already neutral, that's going to be a challenge. Then on top of that, we're at a phase where right now we're needing to do a lot of work on our local access roads. So these are the roads in your neighborhood, lower volume roads. These are not your collectors and arterials that we have grants able to pay for construction work. And Mike Collins, our county engineer, just came up with what is our top priority list for culvert replacements that are due. And we have just over 40 that he is saying that we need to replace in the next 3 to 5 years. And these are culverts that are long past their useful life. If you take a look at, they're rusted out. And so it's critical that we replace those. No grant funds available for those. So that means coming strictly out of our road fund revenues. So the road fund tax levy. Estimated cost for that replacement is $21 million. So that, if you're looking at 3 to 5 years, that's a chunk of change, far more than we have. And definitely would mean dipping into our fund balance to start chipping away at those. And that's one. That's just one aspect of what needs to be happening on our roads. So similar thing, we're looking ahead to. So some of the positions that we have, for example, we do have one mechanic position that we're authorized and approved. We're not filling that. We've been very hesitant to fully fund and fill our engineering team. We've been doing as much as we can with as little as possible, and we'll continue to do that and monitor. But back to your point, Mike, level of service expectations. So we just want to be clear about what that means in terms of, you know, what are the choices and what are the service impacts or potential impacts. And we've been the lucky recipient of REIT and 09 funds for the Belfair sewer to the tune of $1.25 million for a very long time. And in 27, if the financial plan continues, that will be no longer. So hopefully that will be a little bit to free up for other great projects and activities. The Russellwood Sewer has also been the recipient of, Water Sewer Fund has also received funds. And last year, commissioners took a great step towards moving that utility to more solvency by taking a look at rates closer and making some rate changes. We need to continue to do some rate work, but we're getting closer to making sure that we're not being reliant on outside funds other than rates. On that note, that's been kind of a big deal. We went live with metered rates. And so that's been exciting. And so far revenues are coming in as projected there. Where's my 10-minute time? I can go on and on. I got all kinds of crazy things, but I don't want to bore everybody. Anything else crazy? Oh, something of interest to other departments, the Shetland Road RID. We'll start, we'll do the chip seal, finish up that work here shortly. So that means a little bit of assessor and treasurer collaboration on the final assessment roll. I'm sure we'll have some legal collaboration as well, but that's coming up here this summer, and first RID for a bazillion years. We'll get that wrapped up. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Any questions for Loretta? Comments?
Thanks for the bike lane.
Oh, yes, yeah. Harstein Island's had a ton of work recently, so excited to do that. North Island Drive, widen shoulders, paving as soon as we can get the paver out there, and chip sealing this summer, so.
I also think it's
It's been
important
fun.
to note that we have some amazing staff and the equipment that helps us widen the
sure.
roads. And so we're not having to, we're saving money by not having to contract out for that too.
Yeah. Yeah, an example, I think yesterday Mike was talking about the Tunerville project. I believe we were awarded 1.3 something million through federal highways to perform that project. And we did it well under by using our own forces. And first time that federal highways authorized county force work to do a project, and there's an example of getting the project done in a much more timely manner and more cost effectively. And yeah, the crews are fantastic. Yes.
All right, Dave?
Okay, public health, we're in the middle of budget season. So our budget season really runs ahead of everybody else's. So our budget starts basically.
Or do you run behind?
So July 1st starts our next budget year, next budget cycle. And most of that depends on what the legislature does between now and the beginning of May. So we've been up on the Hill working with the legislature on policy bills. Policy bill cutoff is come and gone. So the only bills that are left that we're looking at right now are those that are necessary to implement the budget. And there's 3 of those that we're looking at. And there was an early proposal from Governor Inslee that came forward into the budget this year that would be a $240 million cut to public health, which would be like 90% of our state funding would have gone away. Governor Ferguson has proposed something much smaller than that, $40 million cut. And then we're working with the legislature to maintain whole. Otherwise, we're looking at going back to what we were pre-pandemic. So that would be a big impact to us. So for us, depending on the legislature, we've seen this before a couple of other times. In big budget years like this, the legislature sometimes, well, they wait for the budget forecast to come out.
Which is
March 20th.
March 20th, and then there's a lot of debate that happens back and forth after that. Sometimes they wind up not getting the budget passed until end of May, June. I've seen it go as long as July. Our contracts start July 1st, so that puts DOH in a big bind to get our contracts out to us. And then for us to get them through the legislative process, so there's times that we haven't been able to get our contracts until August. So we're working with DOH and with WSALFO to get that process streamlined as much as possible. There's a new interim Secretary of Health who's on top of this stuff. She's really good about getting this stuff and understands the process of back planning. If you need something done by this date, where do you have to start the process from, which is a flip from what they've done in the past. So we're expecting to see contracts come out sooner than we have in the past. We won't have to coast as long. Right now, it's talking with the legislature and working our contacts up on the Hill to kind of sell what public health does. Here locally, we're looking good. We've got a couple of positions we have not filled, especially within community health and environmental health. We're fully staffed and really could use more, but it depends on, again, what the legislature does with the funding. One of the things we're working with SOFO, so we have a process called concurrence. So when the money does come to us from the legislature, then it goes to WSALFO and Washington State Association of Local Public Health Officials. and Department of Health, and then we negotiate who gets what, how it gets allocated, and it's a big process. The concurrence process, which we got signed into law, says if we cannot agree, nobody gets the money. It goes back to the legislature, or actually goes back to the Treasury. So there's a big incentive for us to sit down at the table and get some agreements out. And it's worked very well so far. We've been through a couple of lean years. So that process generally happens in June, and then we'll get those negotiated contracts out to the locals. So we're waiting to see what happens there. But what we're trying to avoid is having the legislature or anybody start to put brackets around what we can spend our money on, and let the local departments and jurisdictions decide on what we want to spend the money on. For example, they may say everybody gets X amount of money for shellfish. Well, that works for us, but it doesn't necessarily work so good for Garfield County. And there's other programs that they may have for other counties, King or Pierce may want to do that doesn't work for us. We don't do those programs. So we're working to get them to not put big brackets around things and put silos on our funding, and let us have the ability to work with our Board of Health and use those funds as we see necessary. So for us, that's our big push in the next couple months, is just to stay on top of that. We're meeting every week to go over what's going on with the legislature and to see who we need to talk to about what. We pass stuff on to WASAC and to the counties. Folks that are up there working. I can educate, I can't advocate, and I can't lobby. So I go up and I can talk to people about what this kind of funding means, what that kind of funding means. And we're already working with Casey to look at if we get cut by X amount, how does that affect our department? If we cut by Y amount, what does that mean? And starting to work through those processes of what we would look like depending on what the funding levels look like coming to us. On other things, we had a report of measles over the weekend. Turned out not to be measles. It turned out to be a doctor asking about measles. So I've got our process all spun up to say, oh yeah, measles, and explain to him how measles works. We have been watching and working on bird flu. And for bird flu, primarily what happens, if anybody asks, is the feds kind of take over a lot of the response. So Department of Ag and CDC come in and they take over that piece. It's not so much on local public health. So watching those two things, but right now measles is kind of high on my concern list. They had a case in Seattle and in an infant that they drug all over town and exposed a lot of people, and we're ready to see what happens here. So.
Never good to drag babies.
No. So we'll see what happens coming our way. Staff's all briefed up. And the last thing is we've got a pilot program that we're doing on mental health, and everybody will be getting an email on that today. So it allows us to do, using a cell phone, people can log in, they interact with an app that kind of walks them through what they're thinking about, what they're feeling, and then directs them to an actual provider, whether it's a counselor, a therapist, or a trained listener. I didn't know there were those such things as trained listeners, but it's not just an AI app, it's something that connects them with a live person. So that starts today for the county, and then we're rolling it out across the county. We're looking to do 2,500 people across the county, and then it tracks, for us, it gives us the ability to track the data. So it's HIPAA secure. The data that comes back to me is de-identified. All I get is numbers. And it allows us to look at what are people actually interacting for. Is it anxiety, depression? What is their major concern? And that allows us to focus our dollars that we're spending to work on things in a better way. It allows us to line up what we're doing with what real data actually shows us needs to be done. So in the past, it's just like we take our best guess. Well, we're trying to get away from guessing. We're trying to use the data to make decisions. Who knew? So that's what I've got. Questions?
All right.
I'll
Are you
give
gonna do
Mary's
HR?
update real quick. I was looking, she had sent me something, and I thought I had it right on my phone, but apparently don't. But I do know that we have an employment fair coming up March 13th. So this is our first Mason County kind of recruitment employment fair. So make sure that you have the materials to HR, and if you actually have positions that we're trying to recruit for, maybe sending individuals there. It's always, we love having individuals in uniform there to help recruit individuals to our law enforcement group. I think it makes a big difference when they see that. So hopefully we can have individuals present, and hopefully we get a good turnout. I know that HR has gone to Kitsap County to some of their events that they've had, and it was super beneficial. So we're excited to see what the inaugural HR recruitment fair, how it turns out. So, any questions on HR related stuff? You might be able to answer. Perfect.
All right, Todd?
All right, so for IT, so far this year, I think we've started off the year strong. We've got a couple good wins with the deployment of the website. It seems like we got a pretty positive feedback about that. Had a successful cybersecurity exercise. And many of you don't know, we changed phone service providers recently over to Hood Canal. Saved approximately $400 a month, so better service, better savings, you can't beat that.
And they're local.
What's that?
And they're local.
Yeah. We're in the middle of the computer replacements. This year we have 79 computers to replace. So far we have 36 done, so we're approaching the halfway mark, so cruising right along there. We're also beginning the Windows 10 upgrade, or Windows 10 to 11 upgrades. 10 ends at the end of this year for support, so if you're still running Windows 10, we'll be getting a hold of you at some point and you're going to get updates. It does it all in the background on Mac, but it just kicks you out, reboots.
What if we're still running Vista?
Then we need to call it.
Working on DOS myself.
Storage is becoming an issue again, our never-ending battle with storage for everything we have. So I have a quote out to get some more storage purchased. I'm expecting it to be right around $10,000 is about what we spent last time. We have it in our budget, shouldn't be a big deal, but it's a good reminder for everyone. Ask your public records people to go through, dig through your common drives, clean them up. An easy way to do it is just to search. You can do a search for a date. So anything older than 7 years, you can search a common drive for it and it'll pop everything up and then you can start working through those documents. It is a liability to have it. If it's a record that we don't need, it's a liability, get rid of it. And they're expensive to store. There's the initial cost of storage on our server, then we have to back it up here, and then we send it to the cloud to back it up. So a simple little photograph, probably in its lifetime, is gonna cost us hundreds of dollars to store. So it's, clean up after yourself.
Do you keep looking at me?
Might be me.
Your department is the biggest user in the whole county, but I understand the need for your department. So that's why we have storage. It's there for a reason. I don't discourage people from using it and try to stick stuff somewhere else, but also just be mindful of what you're using. So, staffing, we're starting to hurt a little bit. As you know, we're the department that picks up little pieces of every other department's project and maintains it and takes care of it. We're not keeping up anymore, and so we need to have some considerations made about that. We're a little for every year, or this summer, everyone has a vacation scheduled, and we're a little worried about this summer. And there's no overlaps, but we're gonna be down a person. But just the normal day-to-day is getting hard to keep up, and we're having to start to prioritize what is truly important and what is just an optional thing, and we're not getting the optional things done anymore. So, when I started in 2013, I was the 5th IT member. And after that, we went down to 4 and we never came back. Our workload is not going down at all. And if anything, it's probably doubled in that time. And we've taken every efficiency step I can think of to make ourselves as efficient as possible. And as you know, when we start to suffer, everyone in this room starts to suffer because we support all of you. And I don't want to give you guys bad service, but we're getting to the point we need some help.
So be patient. is your message.
Yeah, be patient and, you know, if there's a way to figure out some more help.
Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Be patient.
Thanks.
Yeah.
In good news, just last week, I was able to attend the WASAC meeting discussing Senate Bill 5014 on election security requirements that they're trying to push through. And I have to announce we currently meet or exceed all requirements they have in this bill, and we have for some time, so it's a non-issue for us.
So again, Mason County is setting the standard.
Head of the game.
Yeah.
And because we have an Albert sensor, we get $80,000 a year.
Yeah.
There's like 3 or 4 counties there that chose not to install the Albert sensor, and they don't get that money, so it's kind of nice.
That's all I got. Any questions?
I do have a question about the website. Obviously, we're struggling to still, to find where everything has been moved to. But one of the things I thought was going to happen when we went to a new website was being able to upload our own changes and stuff.
that is
And
still
we
the
haven't
plan.
been contacted yet.
That is still the plan. That's one of those things that right now we're.
Be patient.
Yeah, that is that is a bonus feature that right now we're more focused on keeping our heads above water. So
Yeah.
it's hard to get.
So the only reason I said that is there were some documents that we needed uploaded, and so they sat out there because you were busy.
Yeah.
And so we want to be able to move forward and take care of those things, so, can we reach out to you then, if that's?
Do a ticket.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get that going. We want to get
It was
that
a
going.
timing issue for us as
Mhm.
well, it was court related, and so if we
Yeah.
had the ability to do that ourselves, then we wouldn't have had to bother.
Well, and ultimately, we know that investing that time into that portion of it's gonna alleviate some of our workload in the long run. It's just, bringing the website online was a lot more costly time-wise than we expected. So now we're playing a little bit of catch-up. Hopefully, once we can get over the hump, then we'll get that set up and going.
Okay. I'll have staff reach out and see if we need to do something, but I was concerned because obviously we're used to a fast turnaround time when we're asking for something, and it did wait for a couple days, and it was time sensitive. So I want to be sure that we can work through that and make sure that we have the abilities to do that and we don't have to go right to.
Yeah, and if there's something that sits for a little while, call us and say, hey, this is a big deal, and we'll push it to the front.
And then the other thing I wanted to just mention was the security exercise that we had in January, I thought was very beneficial. I've actually, for my office, done an event planning guide for this sort of thing. So my staff, moving forward, would be able to identify those things we can and cannot do if that situation arose. So I found that very beneficial, and I wanted to say thank you for putting us through it.
Yeah. Thank you.
It wasn't fun at the time, but thank you.
Yeah. All right, anything else? Thank you.
Cal?
Pete? First, I'll follow up on what TJ was talking about with storage. So in community development for the last couple of years, we've been scanning all of our paper parcel files. We also have a grant into the state, or a grant request into the state to do some of the large format commercial projects that we have to keep indefinitely, but getting those scanned in. And we're already thinking about, once that project is done, or maybe even before it's complete, on looking at our iDrive and our J-Drive. And we've done this periodically before, but a little more haphazard, but going through all of the same process we did for our paper, and that is to identify all of the record types and then what the record retention schedule is, and then being able to go in methodically and start deleting things. And so I just wanted, just people put it's not part of your day-to-day business, or it doesn't seem like you are benefiting the public by doing it, but you are, because those are public records that benefit the public in different ways. In our case, it's mostly, property related. But in a way with staff, it actually, I mean, for me personally, and I think other staff, some staff probably do not care at all. But it also just kind of like gets rid of that clutter and helps you just focus on what is really important. And so, back when I did permit planning and when you would try to go through the iDrives and look for something and you're on a deadline and you're going through and you're just sifting through tons of stuff and it's so frustrating, or trying to find something from a previous staff member. It's really frustrating. So getting that cleaned up is beneficial both to staff and then to the public in the end. So that wasn't on my list, but I did want to mention that. So we are continuing to scan. And I appreciate that was extra monies that we, had got through ARPA, so that's a benefit for us to be able to do that. On budget-related items, Mark had asked me about the first 2 months, so January and February, of our permit revenues coming in, and looking at January and February of the last several years, compared to last year, which were exceptionally high. And we looked back to determine what that was from, and Lennar project up in Belfair. Those were just the remaining permits that were being picked up for that project. And so I just did a quick, average. So for averaging over the last 10 years for those months, we're actually over by about 20 grand. And averaging over the last 3 years, we're down about 20 grand. So it's just, permits are not, you can predict a little bit that your spring and summer is going to be a higher volume than your winter, but sometimes you really don't know. And we'll have a higher volume of permits, but they might be lesser permit types, like a mechanical, plumbing, or of course can be high in volume, but not in revenue volume. So that's just an anomaly there, but we don't have any particular concerns other than just, whatever's going to happen in the economy overall. We did add our new enforcement staff in the building side. He's been on for just over a month now. I think he grew up in Belfair, so he is from the area and is living there again, and but comes to us from Hawaii, and was an code enforcement officer there. And so he's just really jumped in with the existing team, both in community development, but also with the environmental health side, and is getting through our backlog of the building cases and going through that. So we're super happy about that. And then on our planning side, we're continuing to work through the comprehensive plan update, and we are scheduled to get a rough draft to the state by June, but our final is not due to them until the end of December. And so we're anticipating that the Planning Advisory Commission will continue to see draft elements after June and continue to work through those before they're ready to send it on to the board. But we are definitely going to make sure that we have time for the board to go through. We're not going to just bring it to you and have a public hearing and go from there. We hope to have time to have some workshops and some briefings, so you guys are familiar with what the updates that we've made, the changes, and then anything new that you wouldn't be familiar with. So that's all I got.
Any questions or?
I got a question, Kel. After this comp plan update schedule, is it 10 years after this?
Yeah, then it's every 10 years.
Unless they change their mind.
Yeah.
True.
Maybe 2.
That'd be brutal.
That would bite. All right. Lisa?
Well, the treasurer's office is in full tax mode. Statements went out in early February, and sticker shock was the biggest thing that we've dealt with, and the assessor's office has dealt with the tax statements went out again. But taxes are coming in fairly well. It's still early, but we are getting good early tax payments in. And the first half is due in April. Other than that, if you haven't heard, I did announce my retirement, so June 30th will be my last day here after 45 years of county and 25 as your treasurer. So I am working with my staff for as smooth a transition as possible. Going through and updating a lot of our policies and getting those in place, and you know, those things that I do on a daily basis, making sure somebody knows how to do that when I'm not here any longer. But I want that transition to be as smooth as possible, and I know my staff will make that happen. So other than that, the treasurer's had a bill in the legislature that would hopefully help with cost recovery for some of those costs that both the treasurers and assessors incur when we're billing property taxes for all of the taxing districts and so forth. That has not moved forward, so it's kind of sad, but then again, not unexpected. So when we're looking at revenues to kind of help with those things that we do in general government and for all of the taxing districts that we get no, payments for or no compensation for. That was, kind of one of those things we would have liked to have seen. So maybe in the future, but not this year. So that's always hard when you're talking budgets. There's no grants for the treasurer's office. There's no grants for the assessor's office. There's no, we're completely funded by those things that we get budgeted for, and so it's very difficult to bring in any other sorts of revenue. But on the expenditure side, I know at least I take an approach that, our expenditures are well thought out and so forth, and we run very lean. So when it comes to looking at those cuts, if they come in the future, we have a staff of 14. We've been at a staff of 8 for at least 14 years. So, there's nowhere else to cut. So it's really hard to manage that, but we do the best we can. So I'm going to miss all of you if I don't get a chance to say goodbye at some point in time in the future. But and I want to thank all of you because it's been an honor to work with you. So
we want to thank you. All right, any questions or comments for Lisa other than tissues? All right, well, I don't see Superior Court in here. No, I don't. So, Undersheriff.
Oh, me. All right. Obviously, the sheriff is not here. He apologizes. He had a previous event that he could not get out of. As you all know, we are always busy because we are a 24-hour-a-day operation in a couple divisions, and so we have always got a lot of moving parts. I will say that coming up at the beginning of April, we have a lot more moving parts than we normally ever have. So we have 2 people that are being promoted to sergeant, 2 people that are being promoted to corporal, 1 new detective in our detective division. We have the sheriff's enforcement team will be starting up, as well as kind of a move back to a more proactive policing theme for this year. And so and in addition to that, we also have the sergeant in the civil division that will be starting there as our new civil manager. So there are a whole lot of people moving around, and that necessitated a complete rebid of our patrol division. So we will have all new patrol teams starting at the beginning of April as well. And so I anticipate there's going to be a whole lot of people figuring out new jobs and a lot of training going on, and just a bunch of moving parts for us. Our corrections division, we are still continuing to struggle to get applicants. However, we do have applicants trickling in. We've managed to hire enough folks to reduce our outsourcing significantly. I think we only, as of last week, have 5 people in Nisqually, and all of the rest are here in Mason County. We seem to be hovering right around the 50 people mark in the jail. So that's a very manageable workload for the folks that we have there right now. So that's been very good for us. Our K-9 program, we are kind of mixing up our K-9 program. We have been all police dogs in the past, land sharks, if you will. Right now, we have one active police K-9. We have a second one that's in training, however, seems to have some cracks in its teeth, which we're having fixed up before you can go into bike training, so that is a little challenge there. Our patrol narcotics, yeah, sure.
Some of those titanium.
Those titanium ones, that's right. Our patrol narcotics K-9 was just certified here last week or so. And then we have a corrections K-9 for contraband that has started training here recently. So a little bit more of a mix in our K-9 program. As most of you have heard, we started online reporting here at the end of last year, so we had a couple months of online reporting. At the end of '24, we had 39 reports that had been filed online, and then as of today, we were at 46 for this year. As we continue to get the information out there, hopefully we'll get more and more activity. It's been very beneficial for us because it allows people to file reports on things where there's not necessarily suspect information, but it's still good for us to get the information about where crime is occurring so that we can focus our enforcement efforts, which we're continually doing. Our patrol folks have been active doing the CW3 active shooter training. They've been working with Squaxin Island Tribe, with the fire service, with our emergency management folks, and doing a bunch of tabletop exercises. We've been using the Squaxin Island, the casino out at Little Creek as kind of our home bed for doing some of that training and as a worst case scenario. So that training is ongoing, and hopefully that will be moving from tabletop exercises to actual full-scale exercises in the future. So that is going on. The sheriff is still very active in our community engagement efforts. He has the Sheriff's Law Enforcement Breakfast. He has 4 community meet and greets that he does every single month on top of that. And then we have a new DARE program that we have implemented in Pioneer School, kind of as a test bed, and the other schools are very excited about expanding that out. For those of you who are around a long time ago, like I was, the DARE program was the Drug Abuse Resistance Education program. That kind of fell out of favor and they stopped funding that, and then it was since revamped into a decision-making model that they teach that teaches the kids how to make good decisions in compromising situations, if you will. So we're working on that and getting more folks trained up to provide that training. We have all of our patrol folks trained in the pursuit intervention technique now. As you know, pursuits went away for a while due to legislative changes, and they have returned. However, pursuits are pretty dangerous, and so any tactics that we can use in order to minimize that liability to the county, we are actively pursuing. PIT is one of those. If any of you watch our social media, you probably saw that we posted a video here recently of a DUI that turned into a pursuit, which had a PIT at the end, which resolved that safely, and we were able to take the person into custody without any injuries. So I'm pretty excited to get everybody through that training. We partner with the State Patrol, and we do an exchange of services with the State Patrol, meaning that we provide training to them in domestic violence and some other things that we specialize in. And then in that return of service, we get to use their firearms range, we get to use their track for training with no cost to the county. So it's kind of a partnership that we developed to reduce costs to the county for training. Our mobile command post, I think all of you have seen that we had a volunteer group, Charlie's Vision, that acquired a command post for us, a command post vehicle. There's been a lot of effort put into interoperability radio systems and all sorts of other things to get that up and running. The last thing was a giant boom mast that goes up on top, and we have that acquired and will be getting put on the vehicle here shortly, so that thing will be fully operational and ready to get out there and do work for the sheriff's office. So super excited about getting that out there. The Mason County Sheriff's Office is the lead agency in our Region 3 Critical Incident Investigative Team, which covers a 5-county team rather, and I think with the legislative changes and the Office of Independent Investigation that was created a couple of years ago, it's a very challenging position that we have, so they partner up with our other counties and go out there and investigate critical incidents that occur with law enforcement related events. So we will be leading that for this year, so it provides a little more burden on the office, but we rotate that through the counties. And next week, our Gold Leadership class starts up. That's the 2-week class that we teach every year. We bring people in from counties all over. We've got Olympia PD participating this year. I've got a supervisor from the fire department, and Jen went through, I think, last year. So we open that up to a lot of different entities. And starting up next week, so that'll be super busy for us. Other than that, we still continue to have a very high volume of public disclosure requests. I think our office fields way more than the rest of the county combined, and most of that burden falls on Chief Byer. So we're pretty excited to have that new civil manager position in there to provide her some backup and relief on that high liability section of our office. And then finally, I will say that our co-responder program is up and running very well. They handle a lot of the calls of service that our patrol folks went to originally. If they're mental health related or ongoing folks that need more assistance than our patrol folks can provide, those co-responders are going out there and taking care of that. An interesting note is that we have more calls for service for our co-responders in Mason County than Thurston County does.
Wow.
And that's not as a percentage of population, that is raw volume of calls. And so they have a 24-hour co-responder program over in Thurston County. We do not. However, we've been working with the grant writer, Tanessa, to write a grant to expand the co-responder program here so that we can get more hours on the books so that they can go out there and help. That's been very good for us because our patrol operations with law changes that have occurred in recent years require more manpower to go to those calls because we have to slow calls down more, employ more tools and tactics, and have more people respond for a safer response. So the co-responders have really made that so that we have more assets available on the patrol side without actually adding more patrol folks. So that's been a good addition to our office over there. So that's a pretty good snapshot, I think, in 7 or 8 minutes. I stand for questions.
At the beginning, you brought up about the enforcement team.
Yes.
Like, explain that.
Yeah, certainly. So a lot of agencies do that. They will take a portion of their patrol division and they will pull them out, make them so that they are not responsible for the calls for service that come out unless they're high liability. But it allows that group of people to then do targeted enforcement on areas where we're having particular problems. And so we have a program called CompStat that gives us a snapshot of all our calls for service, puts them up on a map so that we have heat maps so that we can tell where calls are happening and the type of calls. And then this will allow us to have people who are dedicated to go out and actually work those areas. So to dedicated traffic enforcement and other types of interdiction that we can't really do on a day-to-day basis with our patrol folks. And we've got the City of Shelton, who else do we have?
DOC.
Yeah, City of Shelton, DOC. We've got other agencies that are interested in partnering with us on the SET team, and so it should give us a pretty robust method to go out and target enforcement and
Cool.
kind of deal with some of those hotspot problems.
Do they, in addition maybe to that, and I'm not positive I'm understanding correctly, but it seems like there's a kind of an age-old, especially in an area like ours, impasse that sometimes comes up between what's basically a patrol level case that might need some follow-up or some other additional contact. Almost always somebody who's working graveyard and they, with the shifts that they work, and finding somebody else. So it doesn't rise to a detective, and we get sometimes, not often, but patrol saying that's a detective's job and detective saying this is a patrol case. And I'm wondering how much over and above, I know I don't want to overtax them, but I'm wondering how much of kind of that lower level follow-up that maybe doesn't need a detective but needs somebody who's working during the daytime predictably that can.
The intent is not for specific case follow-up necessarily. However, I do think that, part of their capability and ability to be effective will be to review those types of cases that are those in-betweeners, where there is some stuff to follow up on, but it's not necessarily enough where we've identified somebody, especially when they're working those hotspot target areas, because then they'll be able to, we've got a red car that's been seen in the area of these 3 crimes, and a person of maybe interest but not probable cause. When they start putting all that information together, then they'll be able to start targeting some enforcement, and that will help resolve some of those cases. So they're not case assignment folks. However, I do think that some of those will help you resolve with that type of activity.
Anybody here drive a red car?
Sold it.
Just checking.
Not anymore.
It's being crushed as we speak.
All right, thank you. Mike?
So, I don't know how far you'd have to go back. I said 07, I think that's right. There was some changes in the 08-09 budget time that we sort of came back from, but I would just say we've historically run a pretty lean ship, and that goes even before my time, but certainly since. In terms of staffing, we're quite a bit smaller than I think all of our comparable counties, which is a whole discussion of itself, which is only to say that when we start being short for a long period of time, which we were, and on top of that, part of that shortness was from my 20-something years at this office, unprecedented levels of turnover that we've just never seen before, which was part of the reasons that we all know and we've all already discussed. I think 5 attorneys that were 2 years or less, and 3 of those are about 6 months at a time, where before you even have an opportunity to evaluate and to train and to kind of learn, they're gone, and we're back to being short. So it has more of an impact than just being short. And when we run short, when we have someone leave, we have an existing caseload that has to be picked up right now. There are rules that just apply differently to us than the defense side for very good reasons. This is not a complaint. But when we go short, which we've done several times in the last year, at least twice in the last year and a half, with a full felony caseload that then has to be absorbed by who we have left. So it impacts greatly the cases that we're trying to every day and throughout the day prioritize and triage, and what we can do now and what we have to do now and what can wait. We've worked real closely with the public defender's office when they've had shortages in what we can do to help that. I continue to work with them right now, but the reality is we haven't even really started. We've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 attorneys within the office, within the 8 deputy prosecutors that are currently positions that are filled. At least 5 of them are doing a brand new job that they are learning, and that makes it difficult because there's a learning curve involved, and it's not like we get a body in and all of a sudden we're caught back up, is my point. So we're continuing to work on that. I definitely think that the steps that have been taken have been a savior to my office. We were at the point when we had an attorney leave last fall that I really thought it might start to crumble right now. I've got attorneys that that know that they can go somewhere else where they already live closer to. They can make more money, they can have a smaller caseload. And so I could see the dominoes getting ready to start to fall. So that has stopped. We've actually gotten 2 people in since Thanksgiving. Like I said, they're still learning how to do their job. It resulted in some other people being moved around who are learning new jobs. But I do anticipate, we're 1 short right now. We've got a couple on the line that we need to talk to. And we might actually be back to a full staff for the first time in, I don't know, since probably 18. So, you know, it's when we had the budget conversation, it's obvious that there's gonna need to be some analysis going forward with what can give and where. And I know everybody has their world that they are doing. I know we're all doing too much with not enough and trying to find new ways to do more with less. But our filings have been way down, I think, way down, I don't know what way down means, I don't know how to calculate that, down for several years. And yet, just by comparison, I've got one deputy prosecutor right now who, through the end of February, for those of you that are aware of the caseload limit conversation on the defense side, and where the Bar Association has said that it should be by 27, it would limit felonies to 47 case credits, and he's already got over 47 case credits. And we're just through February, so if he was a public defender, he wouldn't be able to do any more cases for the whole rest of the year. It's just that's the reality in the world of the caseloads that they have. So things are trending up in terms of being able to get people trained up and hopefully get people stable in a position and get some long-term stability. So that's good news. It just the Titanic doesn't turn on the dime, so. I don't think I have anything else.
Sure. Can I do a quick public defense update?
Yes, you can.
So yeah, just a real quick, kind of on the heels of the prosecutors. On the other side, we have the public defense. Peter Jones resigned, and so Peter Jones, our public defender, no longer is working for Mason County. He went to work for the state in some kind of a judicial role, I think. I'm not exactly sure where he went to. With that said, I just wanted to say thank you very much to Maggie Houston.
Yes.
She has done an amazing job of picking up the workload and helping assign cases. We have our one public defender 3 that handles the majority of the life without parole cases. We're having to reassign the majority of his cases, and we don't have another public defender 3 that could pick up those cases. So we are going to be opening that position. I just opened that position to try and fill it. I think that if you paid attention to Peter's discussion before, he was saying, hey, the new caseload standards haven't came in yet, so we're not going to fill these additional positions that the commissioners provided to us. Thank God we have those positions available so that I can at least fill one in the interim. And then I'm not sure the longevity of where that position goes, but most likely just continue to be one public defender 3 that covers the majority of those cases. But hopeful, we have an interview scheduled for next week for an individual that has applied for the head job. And so if all things go well, hopefully we can bring somebody on board, and because you don't want me running that department. Yeah. It was kind of tough. I can't, any legal question, I usually go to Jim and ask him, but trying to keep the prosecutors and the defenders separated, it makes it a little more challenging sometimes. So that was my quick thank you for letting me give an update on public defense.
You're welcome. All right, Judge Steele.
Well, big one is we're having a transition. Patsy has put in her papers to retire. She said she couldn't take it anymore. I didn't ask her to elaborate. Her last day will be June 30th, which tells me I think there might be a conspiracy going on here.
I think we got hired the same year too.
Tanya's moving into her spot. We were authorized, and it'll officially start next week, to have essentially 2 court administrators, so she can get trained up on things when she was a union member, which she still is, but she won't be. She really couldn't be dealing with. We're also going to promote internally for someone to move into Tanya's position, which also leaves 1 extra, and we're discussing how we're going to deal with it. So that's the big change we're dealing with. We had a real cyber attack last November that hit the Office of the Administrator of the Courts. Nothing better than the real thing, I mean, to learn. It's not good, but sometimes there's no substitute. But the upshot is we were scheduled to transition to the new Enterprise Justice Court Management system, and that's been put off by, I believe, 2 years.
1 to 2 years.
1 to 2 years, and maybe if we beg and all that, they can move it to 1, more likely 2. So we'll be still being one of the last bastions in the world where DOS is still a thing.
So we haven't purchased any of that new equipment yet, have we?
Yeah.
Ordered some of it. Oh, okay.
But I will tell you that some of it that we have, it's stuff that we can use.
Okay.
Anyway,
We still have
it's
a
not
need.
just for that.
We still have use
Oh.
for it. So we're not going to start Uncle George's used computer equipment shop, don't worry. So those are the major things going on. Obviously, Building 10 appears to be going smooth.
It does. On schedule. Yeah.
So then we can see how the main courthouse gets divvied up once we leave, and with that, you can segue, unless someone has questions.
Excited for that. And we've been cramped in the courthouse for a long time, so excited to have the opportunity to work with the remaining folks over there to kind of figure out how we're going to do that. That'll come later, so let us get done with Building 10 first. And
Yeah, let us get out first, right?
yes. Yeah.
Please.
Okay.
It's gotta happen before June, just so you know.
It's not gonna happen before
It's
June?
got to.
We'll see.
How many years?
May 20.
I will be 2 months shy of 45 years. So we must have got hired in June. I got hired in August.
How many of those 45 years have they been putting off the change from 1 to 2 years?
For the case management
Yeah.
system,
Yeah.
30 plus.
Sounds about right.
I tried to hang on till it came on. You know.
You're like, I'm done.
I'm done. I'm not interested in that case management system anymore.
Patsy's been trying to kick that football for 30 years. This thing just keeps
Keep
moving.
landing on my butt.
Well, we're gonna miss you too.
Thank you.
All right, Jean.
Hello. Well, I am working on a project. I wish Kelly Frazier was here because he could have my back a little bit. I feel really bad when I call him and say, hey, can you come over to my office? I want to see if something is possible. And he's like, I'm going to bring it towards the commission, but I would like to build our own autopsy facility. I know I heard about the budget, and in the long run, it's actually going to save us money. Right now, we're spending about between $2,500 to $4,500 a month for autopsies to go out of county. I have a pathologist that is willing to make a sizable donation towards this project, so that we could do everything in-house. And we're getting accredited right now, so this is the best time to get it done because we can get our autopsy facility accredited as well. This also gives us opportunity to bring in other counties that they could use our facility, so we could actually make some money that way as well. We are paying per autopsy, so we're not, when we pay for a facility, we're not just paying for the facility for the day, we're paying per autopsy, so that gets pretty spendy. Right now, we're going between 3 counties because there is a pathology shortage, so we're going all the way up to Cowlitz County, we're going to Lewis County, and we're going to Thurston County. So it would really make sense that we could do everything here in our county. So that's the project that I'm working on, and as soon as I get everything done and some numbers, I will come before you guys.
Are you starting autopsies before you actually have the facility?
Mark.
Over buffer.
Yeah.
I have no idea what Kelly has told you.
Just gotta have a proof of concept, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting, and it's neat to see where you were and where you are now.
Yes.
Because it's quite the change.
It
and
is.
it's a benefit to Mason County.
It
as
is,
well.
it is. We are growing and that's exciting. Unfortunately, we are getting busy, so that's hard, but we're able to do a lot more than we used to. Right. I don't have ponies and rainbows in my job, but doing the best that I can.
Kind of an unavoidable one though.
Yes.
And I believe Tanessa, our grant writer, is working with you on some of that too?
Yes, yeah.
So,
yeah.
yeah, definitely a pitch for Tanessa.
And I think that that's awesome that our pathologist believes in us so much that he's
Absolutely.
willing to make a sizable donation. That's awesome.
It is. That's cool. Yeah, so, and that's a good reminder for everybody that we do have Tanessa, our grant writer, and she is amazing. Grant writer. Oh, what it. All right, anything else for Jamie? No? We could make all sorts of jokes, but we won't. All right, Charles.
First of all, everybody's mentioned Tanessa, so I want to follow suit. She is amazing. We're working on a digitizing project up in the third floor jail. We have been able to, I guess we've taken on an assumption that we probably will get some money from our grants, that we have started reviewing the cases and started doing the preliminary. I invited the 2 commissioners that was here on that particular day a tour upstairs to show them firsthand exactly what we were doing, what we have done, and what we intend on doing.
How many? How many commissioners?
2.
At the same time?
It was a lucky day, Mike. I was lucky. We were hoping for 3,
There was
but
no
we got
business
2. So,
conducted.
okay.
They did not discuss any county business and they did not make any decisions on it.
No, we did not. But I wanted them to see what exactly we were doing. Tanessa has been very, very good to us. We currently have a $50,000 grant in the works. We haven't got the word if it was approved yet, but we found another $150,000 grant that we're going to hopefully apply for with the permission of the commission and again, Tanessa to assist us. The project's going to be right around, with everything probably close to, including overtime for my staff, et cetera, about $500,000. So that being said, we're going back 50 years. There's a lot of stuff up there. We have old files. We have things that could be destroyed, and because they have passed their retention period. And so we're hoping that is to be done soon. We also have we had the archivists come to our office and go through our books that we want to have archived. So Secretary of State is interested in that as far as taking the books and putting it in an archive. So and they're all climate controlled, et cetera. So we're real excited about that. I can honestly say that right now we have a full staff. We've had a full staff for a good period of time. Each one of my staff is in court. Every one of them have been cross-trained to do, as everybody probably knows, I said that, is that we have 8 case types, and our criminal clerks can do our juvenile can do our ITAs can do civil and domestics, that type of thing. So we're real excited about what's going on there. This month, Lisa Beck, we thought we'd give her a going away present, so we made so we made sure that everything was to her in a timely fashion. Remittance, got off the restitution. We are 100%. Things are not perfect yet, but I'm off of Lisa's naughty list. I'm good. So that being said. The staff that we have a very diverse group of folks. We have all the way from high school to a master's degree that is working in our office, and doing an amazing job as far as working with each other without any type of drama and that type of thing. So we're really excited on what has happened. We're trying to get to a point. And we do until Monday and Tuesday, and then it starts all over again. But we're trying to give a turnaround time in our Odyssey within a 48-hour period. And we're attempting to do that. And we're better than it was, but it's still not there on a 2-day turnaround. But we're working on that. That being said, again, I don't need to take my whole 10 minutes, but the group that I have are extremely, they love our county, they love what they do. As everyone knows, Terry Owens is no longer with me. I have a new chief. I promoted her from within. Catherine Reed is my chief deputy. She has done an amazing job. We have all the reconciliations done. Like I said, we have all the administrative stuff done within our office. So we're real proud of what we've accomplished thus far. And that being said, any questions?
Questions? Great job. All right.
Thank you.
Patty?
Careful what I wish for, I'm going last now. Thanks, Dan.
You're welcome.
All right, so assessor office update. So everybody knows there's 13 in our office, including myself. So the staff we have now, we've all kind of, for the most part, I've hired most of them. Some were there before I came back as assessor. So I have to say that back in the 1900s when I first started, there was a half position. There was like 21 and a half people in the office. So now currently there's 13, like what Lisa said, we're working with less. Granted, the computer system picks up a lot of the slack. Last year I reported that we got new field devices for our field inspections. They're still not fully up to par, so some parcels have to be desk reviewed to update the full parcel, but for the most part, you can take a lot of pictures. It's uploaded versus with the camera, you'd have to upload it and then find your photos and stuff and label them. So I went out in the field with a couple of appraisers to learn the field devices, and we were out in Old Matlock last year, so it was very nice, except I shouldn't go where I grew up. And most people knew me, so it was a little time consuming there, but they're getting better. And like what Lisa said, the taxes went out a little earlier than normal with we certified on the 13th of January to the treasurer's office, so we streamlined with the system to be a little quicker on balancing to them to an acceptable amount. It's funny now, kind of when the tax statements go out, it kind of starts a second protest period because they never get the notice of value, yet they get their tax statement mailed to the same address. So we sometimes the address might have changed or something, but we do field more calls, like I never received my notice of value, whatnot.
which goes to the Board of Equalization Appeals 2024. As you guys know, was unprecedented number of 624 appeals. This last year was 120. So we're actually going to have them heard by the middle of April. Thank goodness. So with that said, I have my analyst that does handle all the board appeals. She's announcing her retirement this year. She hasn't announced the date yet, but when that happens, we're probably going to hire another field appraiser, and then each appraiser will kind of do their own board appeals in their assigned areas. We're still out in the field. Our notice of values, we went to a full-size letter. We did an insert that kind of talked about the requirements of our office and the area we were going to inspect. So you got maybe 5 taxpayers said that was a great insert, and the rest are like, never got my notice, you know, but we still show up and they want us to make appointments to show up. You know, we don't have the capacity to make appointments. We do have very mad people that we do have flags on the parcels to call before we go. Forwarded a bunch of stuff to the prosecutor's office about one upset taxpayer that's very, very agitated. We were just at his house, so Tim's got the pleasure of that now.
Appreciate that.
No problem. 23 to 24, the increase for the senior exemption went up to 55,000, so we do have more seniors able to apply and be on the program because of that. We are inspecting, we always do 2 areas for the senior audits. Area 2 is our site inspection area, which is the city limits, just the outskirts, so it's kind of a close proximity. We are ahead of schedule. And then area 5, out Greatview, Hartstein area is also the other audit area for the seniors. So those will be going out, I think next month they're gonna go out, and we usually have them try to return by the end of July. We try to coincide it with when their income tax, you know, they do their income taxes because they gotta bring proof of their income. Let's see, the DFL and the current use farm and egg programs, we've been auditing those in our inspection areas. Area 2 surprisingly does have a lot of DFL, so we send out letters to taxpayers if we don't have a current management plan and farm and egg income, just to make sure that everybody's in compliance. We met with Mark and Diane and Kel last year about the open space current use program. We have yet to get you those applications, but Sierra's prepping them for you, so
Okay.
the planners will
How
go.
many?
Like 3,000. She's logging them. She was supposed to have the numbers, but it's not very many. So the planners are gonna go out.
I'm done.
Every other parcel. So it's more on them giving a recommendation to the commission about if they apply, and the open space is more the natural preservation of land, like wetlands and whatnot, because a lot of people, when Kellen went out a few years ago, they want to apply for the program, yet it's parcel just like mine, so it's like, So, and then with the development, like what Mark was saying with new construction, you know, last year we certified $146,835,454. 24 was $168,955,174, and I think a lot of that was that Olympic Ridge up in Belfair. We do have 2 plats that just went in. They were annexed into the city. Up behind Cherry Park and Island Lake, there was 42 lots, 36 of them were residential, and they're almost selling faster than they're building them, just like Shelton Springs development. And then up behind the college is 199 residential lots going in. The plat hasn't been recorded yet, but I know they're up there busily working, so I'm sure that'll be the same. I don't know if the preliminary permits have come in for that yet or not.
That's all city.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything's moving. Last year we were down an appraiser for maternity leave, yet we had sent 1 appraiser out to do the whole county for new construction. We could only pick up new construction on July 31st of each year for the following roll year. So we do see, we're doing it all on the field devices this time, so hopefully we'll get it all picked up and on time. And I think that's all I got, unless everybody's got questions. And I do think IT for my new computer, so I can quit calling and threatening to throw it out the window if it doesn't open.
Keep them on field free.
These meetings are always beneficial, but as we're going around the room and I'm listening, I'm thinking about all of the increased storage space that we're gonna need. For what you were talking about. Yeah, we better
But we did utilize.
expand that a little bit more.
Yeah, we did utilize that SharePoint for our protest period instead of, because Netherlands saw the orange slips, we didn't have those this year, so I mean, it was very nice. Everybody could log the call, and then move it through to the appraisers and whatnot, and then just every other day or so, we just make sure no taxpayer was left behind and not called. We started another one after tax statements went out, so, so, yeah. Any questions?
All right, so now we're back to the bottom, and so before we adjourn, I'd like to have you hear from my seatmates, and then I'll close up.
Do the introductions.
For those that don't know me, I'm Pat Tarswell, the new commissioner. So it's, I'm listening to all these people with lots and lots of experience in working in the government, and I'm a newbie to this, so I have a different approach. And I listened to Jen talk about budgeting, and I think, for 35 years I've been running a business, and my estimates on what we're going to get have always been a guess, how much we're going to sell. So I understand the pain that everybody's feeling because there's an apprehension. We don't know what's going to happen. Well, I'm here to actually weigh in on the other side. You do have a pretty good idea of what was coming in. So we do have a lot more experience and knowledge of what kind of property tax we're going to get, and a pretty good idea on sales tax. That's a little bit more flexible, but take a deep breath. We'll get through this, because out here in the real world, in the business world, we have no clue what's going to happen. We guess. It's a total guess. So we have to do a budget just like everybody else every year. So this too shall pass, and we'll make it through. That's it.
Hopefully not like a kidney stone.
Yeah, it might be like a kidney stone. That's true.
In my individual conversations with Pat, I feel like his focus is definitely on how do we increase our revenues. So it's nice to actually have a focus on what can we do to grow Mason County, and what things do we have to do first to get it prepared so that it is open for growth and that people want to come to Mason County and bring their businesses and bring their families.
Yeah, I'd actually like to expand everybody's budget by growing the county. Yeah, but that's not necessarily what this discussion is about, but that's my goal.
So I want to hit on something we've talked about at the beginning. I want to finish up on it a little bit. The budget issue that we're facing, it happens every so many years we deal with these type of things. Anybody that's been here forever understands that. 2007, 2008, you lost so many employees, it was crazy. Then you have a cycle where you do a little bit better, and then you come back around 2017, we had a situation where we made some deals to try and just break even on a budget one year. Matter of fact, we had a meeting with the undersheriff before you, where we came to an agreement that we weren't going to turn it into a war. We were broke, this is all that was left, but we still came up $35,000 short, of which the prosecutor attorney's office actually gave us $35,000 to balance that year. This is what it takes.
With interest, yeah.
This is what it takes to do it. And whether anybody likes it or not, because I know I don't like it, we're looking at it again, in my opinion, this year. This is where we're at. Now, it looks like we have a lot of money. You were asking the question, how much are we looking? It doesn't work that way. The reason why it doesn't work that way is you have a bow wave each year. Myself, I always try to look at things for a 5-year period to try and make sure we can survive the 5 years. If things went really bad and we expended all we say we're going to lose 12 million of that this year. Realistically, we've been good at understanding how it works. We keep in our mind our unexpended budget authorities and stuff, and it comes back. So we have an expectation of 7 million, hoping. But at the same time, I can tell you in 2017, you learned a lesson. In 2017, we had an elected official that busted the budget by almost $2 million. But then on top of that, we had no unexpended budget authority come back. And it never happened before in history. And that devastated for 2017. We ended up laying off approximately 19 people in this, and that's not even counting some of the other areas. And then we had to lay off people through attrition. This is how you overcome these things when it happens. But it was a reality. Now, with that, since 2017, we'd like to say that we just didn't get this money in. We're getting the money in that we're supposed to get. But we keep expanding our government, and since 2017, I think you brought us the numbers, we've hired on 31. That's not counting this year, the stuff we agreed to do this year, 31 different employees. That expands the government. And the majority of everything we spend in government is on people. That's where we spend our money. There's no way around that. And of those, that's not even counting building or health, because they basically become self-sufficient with their money coming in. So when you're looking at trying to readjust, it isn't even that simple either. You have groups that have not got anybody for years. They just haven't. So they got cut to the bare bone, and then they found a way to make it. So we have to keep that in mind. You have to understand you can't just cut across the board. It doesn't work that way, because you have money coming in. If you cut across the board, that money doesn't come in. So money coming in, money coming out. So I want to just remind everybody that that's what we're looking at. Now, currently, right now, if we did the 7 million, or 7 to 8 million, we're gonna be down to the bottom of our unbudgeted cash, basically. The stuff that we don't have earmarked. After that, the next year, would expect if you have 7 or 8 million, that's gonna be with a bow wave, because everything grows, it's gonna be 10 million the next year. Then now, for that next year, you're taking away from your reserves. We have no choice but to make adjustments on how we do reserves. And then after another year of that, with another bow wave, you're in serious trouble. We are sitting in a situation, if we're wise about this now and start to look at some of the smaller things that we can do, for example, not fill in positions that are coming in, trying to find, of course, other revenues. There was a comment about perhaps taxes going out for certain types of taxes that the people are allowed to put on themselves. I'm never a pro-tax guy, but I always have believed that we should never deny people the right to burden themselves. If they choose that they want to have a tax, especially for law enforcement and criminal activities, they need to have that right to look at that. But that still won't save everything for the future. I myself, I do have the worries, and I wanted to put that out there so that you know, and I want to make it clear, this is just my opinion. The other commissioners may completely disagree with me, but it isn't as bad as it always looks if we get to it early. If you stop it and make your loss 3 million this year, we can withstand 5 years. If we continue to go large, we won't be able to withstand a couple of years. With that, you look at reorganizations, it's not always just laying off a bunch of people. Hopefully it's small, then you have reorganizations, you have attrition, you have special taxes or other revenues that come in it. With that being said, I just wanted you to know that that's what I'm seeing when I'm looking at these budgets. I've been trying to talk about a little bit, but this year it's coming in pretty heavy. And so I'm talking about it a little more, and I've never wanted to hide anything from you. Because I remember some years back, we had elected officials said, I wish I'd have known. Well, I told them back then, but they didn't listen. I'm telling you now, this is numbers I see unless we make some kind of actions. We're gonna have to have larger adjustments later. Smaller adjustments early keeps you from having larger adjustments later. And besides that, you're always just buying time. Government will never be in front of the curve. You're gonna expand for a few years, and then you collapse for a few years. You expand for a few years. So we just have to survive it and do the best we can, providing the most services we can. That's my 2 cents. Sorry, I wish I didn't have brought you roses and smiles, but this is something I look at every day and I worry about, and I wanted to share it with you.
On that note, no, I want to thank everybody for coming in. We're going to miss some very valuable people and some smiling faces. Hopefully we'll have another meeting here before they leave, but it may not happen because we're all very, very busy. Everybody has great responsibilities. As we look forward, I think let's just remember to be thrifty and to be financially aware. If we're all working together, we have a very strong, solid team here in Mason County. And so I know that with everybody here, well, we can accept any challenge and defeat it. So together, we're pretty rock solid, I think. On that note, I do want to thank everybody for coming, and we'll go ahead and call it a day. Thank you, guys.
You can go home.
That's what I heard.
That's what I heard too.